From deep in the Burbank Media District, it's time for another edition of My Burbank Talks, presented by the staff of My Burbank. Now, let's see what's on today's agenda as we join our program.
Hello, Burbank. Craig Sherwood here with you once again, and today we're doing our Burbank Business Showcase, or Spotlight, I should say, I'm sorry. And because of the time of year it is, and I have a nasty word for you, taxes. A nasty word if there's ever was one. That's the word that nobody wants to talk about. That's the word nobody wants to say, and that's the word nobody wants to hear. Actually, nobody wants to hear IRS. But we'll get into all that in a second. So I thought what we would do would be to talk to an accountant as we come into tax season, because it's something we all have to deal with. And I'm thinking, well, who do we talk with? And I said, well, wait a second. Why don't we use the accounting firm that My Burbank uses? Because it's the one I trust, and they do great work for us. And it's something that, you think hard about and everything else. In fact, I've given them access to our books. They know more about my business than I probably do. So I thought we'd bring them in today. And the service we use is called CBIS Datatax. And they're located here in Burbank. And as you know how I am about doing business in Burbank always, and keeping our, not only literally our tax money in Burbank, but I think it's important that we use a Burbank business whenever possible. So they are in Burbank and very accessible. And with us today, okay, we have, here we go. I know I'm going to, Layla Kashani.
Oh,
how was that?
That's pretty good.
Layla Kashani? Yeah, did I do pretty good?
You did pretty well.
Okay. Layla Kashani, I'm sorry. I was so worried with the last name, the first name. So is that okay?
No problem.
Okay, fantastic. And also with her is Justin Cohen. Yeah. Hi, Justin. How are you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Oh, you know what? I love doing this. I love bringing the information to the people. Good. Because, and I say once again, this is something that I think people need to really to pay attention to.
I agree.
So, Layla, let's talk first. Let's talk about your backstory a little bit. Let's talk about where you're from and what got you where you went to school and what got you into the accounting world.
No problem. Well, I guess I should say I am from California. I was actually born in the Valley, so just kind of over the hill here in Glendale.
We don't hold that against you.
Yeah, don't hold that against me. Grew up in the area, and family moved down to San Diego, so probably I spent some time down there. Went to undergrad down at UC San Diego, so native California, and kept going in college. But then I went off to grad school. That's where I got my master's in finance and accounting at Georgetown University. So I went back east. And so let's just say fast forward a number of years, I've been working in finance and for different corporations around the nation and then travel the world. But I always had my eye on owning an accounting firm. And so a number of years ago, I started looking, especially in California. And my own accountant, who's been doing my taxes since my first job at age 16, was CBIS Datatax. And unfortunately, the owner passed away in 2022. And that's where I had the opportunity to make an offer and work with the family, the surviving family, the wife and daughter, and purchase the firm. And we made an arrangement, and we decided we got to keep the legacy going because CBIS Datatax has existed in LA since 1981 and has been in Burbank at that exact location where we are on 201 North Hollywood Way since 1998.
Around the corner, Hollywood and Alameda.
That's right. So
I white building there, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Like incredible legacy there. So that's how I ended up with this firm, and we've been running it, and got new staff in that we had to obviously get some more accountants in. And
that means you're busy, and that's good. Let's go back real fast. So you traveled all over the world, huh?
Yeah.
What were some of the places that you really enjoyed going to?
Oh, well, I've enjoyed everywhere. I had a family that my father worked around Europe a lot, in Austria and London and Germany. And so I knew those places. And so I've spent a lot of time going back into Europe, seeing the old haunts of where my father, we used to have homes in Düsseldorf and Vienna and London. Yeah, so I've always been kind of a travel bug, had that kind of tie over to Europe, even though I'm from native California. So it was kind of a nice, he was away a lot, by the way, my father. So 6 months out of the year, he'd be traveling. but that did probably plant the seed with me. So I really enjoy Europe. Say what you will, it's a different nation, different kind of culture compared to the U.S. But for one thing I learned is if you ever want to go somewhere and eat and it's not lunchtime, the restaurants will be closed. So,
Really?
so it is not like the United States where you can go 24 hours.
More and more restaurants here are actually now closing between like 2 and 5 in the afternoon,
Right.
things like that. And I'm finding that, and I've also heard, and I've never been. It's the old bucket list. When I get to 2 new knees, I am going to make it to Europe. But I've also heard you don't tip in other countries. The U.S. is the only country you really tip in.
That is true. They do love Americans when we come over there because we don't know that, so we're tipping on top. But yeah, they're service workers in the industry. They have full salaries. They don't live off the tips like here, and so they've incorporated about a 20% kind of service. It's in the bill. So if the bill says $98 or euros, there's a tip already built in. But if you want to round up to 100, you can. And the people that do, they do appreciate that.
Yeah, I would. If somebody really did a great job for me, even now, I don't. I look at what the tax is. I double it, and then if they did another good job, I might not double that, but another 50% above that also. So, because I know that you appreciate when people do things for you. They go out of their way.
That's right. It is different, but they do love Americans when we go over there because we don't know that. So we're tipping 20% on top, and so they get very happy. So
I can imagine so. Oh, Americans, yes, sit at my table, please.
What else do you need? Are you sure?
That's right.
Okay, so you looking for an accounting firm to buy, and you found CBIS CBIS Datatax. It does not roll off my tongue that well. Here in Burbank, how did you find them though? What brought you to them that you wanted to get involved with them? What was the thing that brought you to them?
Well, when Datatax was founded by 2 brothers, actually 2 accountants, CPAs back in like I said, 1981 in Los Angeles, my father was a client. And so when I took my first job at 16, and I think my first job was in a 1-hour Photoshop, if people even know what that is anymore, where I worked.
Photomat.
Yes, I worked in the dark room because I was one of the few that knew how to actually print.
So you didn't work in the parking lot at a store or something?
No, I was actually in the dark room doing custom images, prints like black and white, like the classic way through all the processing, which
cool.
Nobody really knows anymore. But that was my first job.
Photography, deck troll, and the wash, and
There you go. The stop.
We used to do all. We used to have a dark room here back in the day, and you had to run back and soup your pictures and check the negatives out and print what you could find, and then to run off to the newspaper and get them and publish it. So that's like a 6-hour thing compared to now where it's 20 seconds later and you Wi-Fi'd off your phone to somebody.
That's right. So my first job, obviously, I got a W-2, so I had to somehow figure out tax. So my father introduced me to his accountant, and so literally from teenage to now, I've been using Datatax. And even though those 2 brothers, as they retired and then handed off to other accountants, the legacy was there, which is what I thought was so brilliant about the way CBIS Datatax has been running. Is that they kept handing it off, there was a continuity. So even if the accountants were coming and going, it was a continuous. I mean, when I took over, we had files in there from 20 years ago. So that was an advantage that I don't think you get if you just buy any farm.
Right.
From
and it's important that you also save the name. You didn't change the name, too, so you had that continuity also.
Same name, same location, and we also have the same clients. Some of the clients we have been there for 40 years. So.
And that's impressive. That alone speaks volumes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let me ask you the first question here. So what sets CBIS Datatax apart from other accounting firms? What do you think is the thing that really sets you apart that you really tout to people?
Yeah, well, the first thing I want to say is we're not your father's accountant. So don't think of the little traditional little guy sitting behind a desk that's kind of like with a bunch of receipts and a shoebox in front of them. We've modernized. Okay, we are modernized just like others. We have capability to work from home, so our accountants can always get into our servers. We've locked everything down. By the way, I don't put anything on the cloud. I think other firms do. I don't trust the cloud. that office has always been a paper-based office anyway, so modernizing it was a trick because I own the own server. We back up internally and we don't share that data out. So that's a difference. I think we don't have portals on a website where people can like shoot their files through. We don't trust those. I'm not saying they don't work. I know there's very good software out there, but in our firm, we've decided we're not going to take that risk, and we prefer it's more like hand it over to us or scan it, or there's other secure ways to get us your data. The other thing that we're different is we're around year round. We're not one of these H&R blocks that are pop-ups for the season. They're in malls and they're there and they're ready to do your tax because they'll be gone when you get that IRS letter. Who's going to help you? And so we're there 12 months out of the year. You can always find us, so that's a differentiator as well.
Well, I know it's important for us at my Burbank because you have a question or something comes up. You want to be able to know who to talk to and be able to talk to them whenever you need to talk to them.
That's right.
And as far as it's so easy to use, you guys. We use QuickBooks, the Pro, the online, and you guys are plugged right into that.
Right.
So I don't have to go and put together all these records and bring all these things over and this and no. You guys just plug right into my QuickBooks and pull whatever data you need out of there, which I think is, for me, very time saving.
That's right. I mean, and having a legacy type of business the way CBIS Datatax is, and by the way, we don't know what CBIS stands for. There's no one alive today.
I was going to ask it down the line. I was trying to figure out what does CBIS really stand for.
I think Justin has an idea for it. We were going to run a contest to guess and kind of find one of our oldest clients to tell us what the real answer is.
What do you think, Justin?
Oh God, I don't have it written in front of me. I think it was written as client building income services or certified business income services.
I'm sure it's got to have some deep down meaning. Now, you're the marketing guy, correct? Yeah. So I would think that's something you need to...
I know, I'm trying to figure out what it means.
Yeah, but we're definitely
that's your homework.
We're not going to remove it. We're going to keep it because it's part of that legacy.
Well, absolutely. Right? Because people might only know it by that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the original guy's daughter, I met her the other day. She was in getting her taxes done by one of our accountants, so I thought that was pretty funny.
But she didn't know what it stood for either. They don't know.
Exactly.
Even
she had
the wife
no idea.
Doesn't know. But there's no one alive that knows. But one of our oldest clients, they might know.
Oh.
So, but we're going to run a contest maybe on Instagram and see if anyone can guess, and they'll win a prize.
Well, the problem you might have there is that your older clients are probably not on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly.
Though. You have to probably send them actually a letter in the mail.
Yeah,
the old snail mail.
That's right.
Believe it or not, we've definitely been getting some, those younger generation clients for sure more recently as well. So definitely that's been helping, the tax firm stay young and fresh as well.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so let me, a lot of people think, I don't really need an accountant. I can do my own taxes, or I can use the old H&R block or the, TurboTax. Oh, it's free. You push a button or something. And I learned a long time ago when I first started doing my taxes when I was younger that, that might be great to a simple form. But if you want to deduct something, and let me tell you what, everybody needs to deduct something. You don't really do that on those free tax things. You need somebody who actually understands how deductions work. So how do you convince them to let a professional accounting firm handle their taxes?
Well, I know Justin has a story about why you should not assume just because you have one simple W-2. So why don't you tell your personal experience?
Well, yeah, I mean, before working in a tax firm, I think I did use TurboTax in general, just because it was easy, convenient. Thought I was young and I didn't, I just have a W-2. What else do I need? I don't have anything special. So I was using TurboTax, and then once I started working in a tax firm and kind of getting all the information and overhearing the accountants talk with their clients, how much gas did you spend? How many car washes did you get? You can deduct all of that stuff, X, Y, and Z, depending on situations, of course. Especially with, health expenses, medication expenses, insurance as well. TurboTax and H&R Block, they're not breaking down those services for you and asking, how much are you spending on this throughout the year. With a personal accountant, they are going line by line. How much in medications did you spend? How much in procedures, surgeries, if applicable. So in the long run, it's more thorough, and you're getting more information back.
And I think that's really important too,
Yeah.
because, you don't realize all the little things that there are out there and all those little deductions, like you say, like vehicles and things like that alone, and, back in the day, I used to actually, just claim zero on my, 1099, so they'd take the most money out, and I'd get the most money back that way when I'd file, but I probably left a lot of money
That's right.
in the government's hands because I didn't, not realizing that I could have probably gotten even double the return back, back, because if I would have known deductions and stuff. So, yeah, I agree. I think having an accounting firm, I couldn't live without one now.
Well, clearly, if you have a complicated tax situation, then you probably can't do them on your own very successfully. But I love Justin's story because he's live. He's saying, look, before I came here, I did it kind of myself online for free. But then I realized, well, wait a minute, I'm giving money away. And there is a statistic out there. People probably pay 30% more in tax than they need to. And that's just kind of a blanket kind of number. And I think a third of your money should be in your pocket. There's nothing wrong with trying to get the deductions correctly. And when you're doing it yourself, also, those softwares are probably not prompting you in the same way with the same kind of questions. I know they're getting better, and we love AI, and AI is getting smarter, but it's still not replacing an accountant that's finding the loopholes and the kind of the connections, connecting the dots of your taxes. I'll speak to, for me also, when I was 16, I think that very first job in the 1 hour photo, my accountant, which was CBIS Datatax, by the way, back then, he said, let's set you up and say you're kind of like a salesperson. And now we can deduct everything. And suddenly I said, but I just have this one W-2. And he goes, no, you bought a newspaper. That's part of your marketing strategy. You went out for coffee with someone and discussed the 1 hour photo. He's like, that's a meeting that you had. That's entertainment. That's a deduction. And I couldn't even believe what he was saying to me. He said, it's all legal. He said, it's just people don't know it. So even that one, so ever since I was set up as, say, a sales professional, I could deduct my cell phone, my, filling up the car with gas. I'm making sales calls. You buy a magazine, newspaper on the run. It really does add up over the years.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say, and is that every job you have, there are deductions in that job that are possible. I just think, I just work this little job. Like you say, I'm a salesman or something, right? I work at McDonald's. Well, you still have to get to McDonald's. You have to get home. You might have to, wear certain clothes on certain days or whatever it's going to be. All that stuff is part of business, which is part of taxes. And let's face it, when it comes to deductions, why shouldn't we get the same advantages that GE gets? Where, they have a multi-billion-dollar company and don't pay any taxes, basically, because they have good accountants.
That's right.
So why shouldn't we have good accountants, too?
You're
That's
exactly
why every
right.
person should have one.
Exactly. And if you start one early in life, like you're just out of college, you just got your first job, that is when you need one to start with, because you're not always going to be just the one W-2. You will one day buy a car, and then you're going to buy a house, and maybe you'll get married. And you need someone, or at least a firm, that's following that with you and advising you throughout the year, throughout the years, throughout the decade. And that's the importance of having a legacy.
And you're back at your education. What's your education again? You have a master's
in finance.
A master's in finance. Okay, which, that's a lot of.
Yeah. Believe me.
And what got you go into finance? Because that's kind of a dry subject. It's not the sexy subject and all but it's a very necessary thing. But what got you to get your interest really into that? Where okay, I want to get into school. I want to actually get a master's in that now. What drove you to that?
Well, I was always very good with numbers. I think I studied mathematics in university, so that was one of my majors, and then went off and statistics. And kind of when I went off to business school, you could go down the marketing route, or you could do the finance track. And I thought, and I think I was right, that if I take a marketing job, I can probably do it without any education and figure out, right? But if I take a finance job, no one's going to hire me unless I've been trained already. Nobody trains you on the job to do finance.
Very
and
true.
I knew that every business in the world has a financial arm to it. That's why they exist, to make money. The marketing side, you can learn, you can't learn every product in school, but you can learn financial techniques. So I picked the finance realm. One, I'm good at numbers, I like them, and I felt that it was a skill I need to learn in school so that when I get out there, I can already apply it. Whereas marketing, I figured, I'll take a class here and there, and then I'll figure it out as I go. And then I hired a marketing guy. That's why I got Justin.
Justin, who went that other route.
So Justin's the guy that's doing my marketing. See, that's what the finance did for me. Told me go hire someone.
And I also couldn't do numbers, to save my life. So that was out of the question for me.
Everybody's got their thing in life, and it's nice when you can find something you enjoy doing.
Yeah. Because,
you can call it a job, but how much of a job really is it when you enjoy getting up every day and doing what you do?
Exactly.
I mean, that's kind of like, my Burbank is not a huge moneymaker. We're not we're not the NBC or something, but we do enough to get by.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it every day. I enjoy the news business. What's going to happen next? I don't know.
Exactly.
It's not the same thing every day. It can be this is something new right now we're doing, and I'm learning.
Yeah. It's better than getting up every day and dreading going into the work.
Yeah.
Going into the office to work.
True. Let's talk about some of the most common problems that people have. When it comes to tax season, what are some of the common problems you think that people have when it comes to just filing and things like that? Even with an accountant, knowing what information to provide. I'm sure you guys probably do a good job of asking for things too, kind of knowing the background of the business and knowing what they should ask for. But what are some of the things that people, because you're also talking about, insurance things and interest on maybe loans and things like that, which are, people don't realize a lot of that might be deductible to a point.
Yeah, I would say that clearly nobody's like rushing to us to get their taxes done. We've got some of our clients that are very much the early performers, so they're booking it early Feb. As soon as the tax season we're able to file, they're in the door because they just want to get it out of the way. Chances are they have a refund coming, so they want to file it as soon as possible. So those are the ones that come in right away. But I would say the challenges are for most of our clients and probably most people out there is, first of all, they got to dig up all the papers and especially if they're very complex and they've invested in other things, they don't have the papers from those companies, so they can't yet file. So they feel this building up stress of I don't have everything yet. How can I file? And that, again, is where an accountant can help because we can piecemeal it. So we can look at, say, last year and say, for example, you're missing one particular 1099 investment. You had some stock last year, but I don't see it this year. And then that's when you start panicking and going, oh my God, I don't know where it is. I don't know how to get it. And we just say, don't worry about it. We will estimate it. Did you buy any more? Did you sell any? Let's just estimate it. And we know how to do that for you. So there's some cases where you may not be able to find the actual piece of paper or receipt. We will be able to look at your past and be able to kind of adjust your taxes to reflect it in a way that won't get flagged because it's reasonable, right? So that takes some pressure off people that are panicking about that. There's also people that panic over payments, right? They're going to owe money. And that's another reason that they're mentally not ready because the minute they file, they think they have to write that check. Now, of course, the IRS gives you until April 15th to actually make your payment. So, that doesn't sound like a lot of time if you think about it, but there's also things you can do. We know some people have huge tax bills. They might even have back taxes. And that's, again, where I think CBIS Datatax, we do really well with our clients to advocate for them, to try to find a solution, give them some advice so that they can find a way do I have to pay it all at once? Can I get on a payment plan? And we can help guide them through that too, because there's a lot of angst around owing money to the IRS.
Absolutely. And kind of brings me up to my next question is, I think people are afraid of the IRS. Okay. Should they be afraid of the IRS? And what kind of calmness do they have because they have you as an accountant? But let's face it, most people are worried about, are they going to audit me? Are they going to come after me? Are they going to, because they look at the IRS with a long arm that has no, they're not nice people. They probably are nice people, but they have that reputation for being cutthroats.
Well, what is interesting is if you look at the IRS Instagram account, and they do have one, it's very colorful and playful and almost childlike in quality.
It is very childlike.
And makes you feel like that's not at all what I think it is when you pick up the phone and call them. And it is funny, they are trying to change their image. It doesn't help by saying they just hired 80,000 agents that they're all going to be armed, right? What does that mean? Like an IRS agent has a gun? I mean, what are we talking about here? And so I think that scared the public quite a bit. But honestly, the IRS and the federal government they serve us, right? We're the taxpayers, so they serve us. And so you can negotiate a lot of positions with them. And there's just ways to call them and speak to them and get help and tell them your situation where they're not going to just come down and say, too bad, too sad, you owe the money. It doesn't always work that way, but you need to know how to do it. And I think that's, again, if you have an accountant as your partner, they can help advise you.
So if that does happen, do you guys go down with your client and kind of help him through the situation, or what basically happens with that? Let's say I got called in for a they want to go through my records tomorrow. Okay, what would my first thing is I'm panicking. Okay, and the second thing is how do I do this? And I mean, should you walk the person through it? Do you go with them? What's the whole procedure?
Yeah, so I will say the simplest kinds that before you get down to the full audits that you're describing, but you're probably going to get a letter, and the letter is going to say they question something, some aspect of your return. And that's the first point where you got to call your accountant and say, all right, what do I do here? I mean, I'll give a personal story that I made a big deductions of charity donations of a bunch of stuff that I gave away, anything that plugged in, like equipment, the refrigerators, whatever. It was a big, like an apartment dump. And 3 years later, I got a letter where they questioned the value of that because they said, we don't believe the Salvation Army receipt or whatever that would list all the stuff and we put a value. And I thought, oh my God, I don't know where I don't have receipts for that refrigerator from 3 years plus ago to prove the value. So the accountant, and by the way, it was CBIS Datatax, said, oh, no, you don't give them any receipts. If you give them one receipt, they're going to ask for every receipt. He said, we need to establish lifestyle, that you buy expensive stuff. And I go, how do I do that? And he goes, well, find a page of one of your Amex bills that looks like you shopped at some high-end stores like Saks Fifth Avenue or something. And he goes, and then mark out all the other stuff. Just highlight a couple of those and just make it any random page from that time period and mail that back to them and say, I buy good stuff, and handwrite it and mail it back. And sure enough, they wrote me another letter. It took about 3 months. They said, we've closed the matter. So sometimes you can do something simple. I would have never thought to do that, but my accountant said, let's try it. Because the worst case is they come back and say, no, we need receipts and we got to go digging. But chances are it's not going to be worth their effort. They're chasing 20,000, 30,000. That's really not worth their effort all the time. I'm not trying to tell you not to pay, but they're questioning evidence of something that you know is true, and it's just a pain, right? So they're going to finally realize, you know what, this isn't worth going after because she's probably is going to be able to prove it. So let's just let it go. And that's where an accountant can help you, advise you, so you don't get into this panic and do things that might make the matter worse.
You said one thing that I had never realized. Now, okay, so we paid our taxes in 2023, and now we're in 2024. And when we pay taxes again, I think, okay, 2023, that's history. You said 3 years later.
Oh, yes.
You got the letter.
That's right.
So I'm kind of shocked that it took 3 years for somebody to go through that return and look at it and then come back at you. So how long do they have that you have to be in a situation like that where all of a sudden, I mean, is it like 10 years later or something, or what is there a cutoff period or?
Well, generally, you've probably heard the rule to keep your keep your tax forms for 7 years. You probably heard that kind of figure. Keep them on hand for 7 years. So yes, 7 years is the documents. You should hold on to stuff, including all your evidence for that return for 7 years. But technically, the IRS can chase you for 10 years. So, but once you go past that 10-year mark, they don't go after it anymore. So we've even had cases or clients that, for example, could not afford to pay, and they weren't working or they didn't have any income, and literally the 10-year mark comes and that's it. It's over. They've never paid the IRS the money that they couldn't afford in the first place for whatever reason. And so, I mean, that is the good news. Now, criminally, That's not true. They can go as far back as they wish for a criminal investigation. But for just simple, we recalculate and we believe you owe some more, that's only for 10 years. But yeah, it will take years for them to contact you, by the way.
But I had no idea. And now, once again, that's why I love this show. I learn things too. Hopefully our listeners are learning right now that the long arm of the law is also a many-year arm of the law.
Oh, yeah.
What about, are there any, of course we all know that they're constantly changing tax rules, tax laws, tax everything, that Congress is passing new deductions and everything else, and I think they have to do it before the 31st of January or something in that area. So what are the new kind of tax laws that you are kind of dealing with, or you're trying to tell your clients, hey, we need to get this going for you because it's something good for you? Is there anything that we should be on the lookout for that you know about?
Yeah, there's one that I do want to talk about because it's kind of unusual and it's very interesting, especially for Southern California, and that the federal government has allowed any kind of repair or maintenance work that you did due to the rains that happened actually way back in 2022. We're talking December 22. You're now allowed you can deduct those as an expense, as a repair, as opposed to just saying it's a disaster declaration repair. It's just a straight repair. So, for example, if you did any gardening last summer, or you planted new trees because you had some tree damage or some bushes, or you had rain damage in some walls, all that is now deductible this year. And it's an exception. It's not normal that we can do this. And of course, you can sort of fold in all your yard work and maintenance work because you probably had to clean up quite a bit from the storms. And it doesn't matter if it happened late last year or even into this year. You can still save those receipts and deduct those. And that's an unusual one. We haven't had that in the past.
How far can somebody go back and deduct something? I mean, if they can go back and look at your returns for 10 years, I mean, if in 4 years from now I found saying, oh, you know what, I never deducted that, can I still do a retroactive thing or something?
Yeah, it's called filing an amendment, and you can go back 3 years. Unfortunately, like they can go back to the 10 years, but
they have their.
Yeah, you can only go back 3 years to adjust. And as I said, if you think you paid 30% more, just like most Americans pay more in tax, unfortunately, you can only go back 3 years to try to correct it. But that's also in your favor a little bit, because if they do question you on, say, some kind of deduction, you just by what you just said, I probably forgot some things. They will worry about that, because if you come back and say, not only do I have all the deductions that I said I did, but I actually found some more, they have to give you credit back for that. So if they come after you and you find even more in your favor on a year that they questioned, then now they owe you money, because now they're investigating. So that could go back beyond the 3 years. So that's something to think about. If you hold back on some of your expenses and you forgot about them and it's too late to amend, well, if they do question it, now you could bring it up and claim it.
That'll teach them a lesson.
That's right. That's why they don't really mess with, they don't like messing with the ones unless they're sure, right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, okay. Before we end up here, you guys are accountants, and then all, I mean, are marketing and accountant, I should say, and the public perception is accountants don't have any fun in their lives. They just kind of, that's all they do. They go in and they do numbers all day and they go home. What are some of the things you like to do? What are your interests, outside of the office? What do you like to do? What gets you excited about life?
Well, what's not fair is even after today, when work ends, we're going to a Toluca Lake Chamber of Commerce event right in our building. It's like a networking happy hour thing. So we're going to be doing that right after work for fun. But, well, I like to snow ski, so downhill ski. That's kind of one of my sports that I love.
Which are around? Are you a mammoth around here, or where's your favorite place to go skiing?
Well, I'll ski anywhere in the States, like Utah, Colorado. I like Park City, Deer Valley. I have a place in Montana, so I'll go to Big Sky up there. And, of course, the local skiing here is great, too. It's just you have to do the drive here. Somehow, like, driving in the mountains is not easy here.
No, it is
That's
not.
Something that I think California hasn't quite gotten right about how to get to the ski resorts here.
Well, when it comes to transportation, I don't think California's gotten a lot of things right here, In fact, we're going to have a big hubbub in Burbank coming up about transportation in the next couple of months here, where they want to take all
the
of
lanes.
Yeah, they want to make all of them to one lane instead of 2 lanes. So that's coming. But that's a whole different
Yeah.
a whole different podcast in itself. So skiing, anything else?
So like, well, no, I just enjoy,
Traveling.
I enjoy traveling. I travel a lot. So,
See, that's where I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I am so jealous. I love to go places,
yeah.
and it's just it's hard for me to get away. But I just love to, every time I've gone somewhere, and 10 years later, I was like, yeah, I went there, and that looks familiar. And I love to,
Yeah.
to reminisce about that.
I do that. So I guess I'll throw out, I'm going to a conference in Dublin coming up soon. So, and while I'm there, I'm going to hop over to Scotland and see a friend over there. And then I will also go to the Formula One in Monaco. So those are my like travel things coming up in the next couple of months.
No biggie. Just,
Yeah.
Yeah, the Formula
Regular
One-
things.
Yeah, Formula. I'm a huge Formula One fan. I'm a huge. Yeah, actually, we've got we're in Australia this weekend.
Oh,
So it's and I hear that's actually one of the places, the bucket list places to go to. Besides now Las Vegas too for Formula One.
yeah.
But so Justin, what about you? I mean, I know marketing is could be dry sometimes. What's your fun
no,
place?
totally. Definitely strong passion for animals in general. Spend a lot of time with my own animals, and then doing a lot of also.
What kind of animals do you have?
I have a dog. Yeah,
Okay.
a little terrier. She
What's her
just
name?
turned Scarlet.
Scarlet.
Yeah, she just turned 9. So
Oh.
she's getting up there. I feel like I got her like yesterday.
Oh, lovely.
But yeah, she's the best girl. So we spend a lot of time together, outdoors a lot. We go on some road trips together as well. Yeah.
I've had a dog my entire life, and I think they're great companions. And it's just it always takes a piece out of you every time you have to move on from one. But you know what? I always have my dog. I lost my dog in April, and it was during the pandemic, and I got Dodger in June. I just tried to get one right away.
Yeah.
It was very hard back then because all the pounds were closed.
Yep.
So it was very hard to get a dog back then. But
Yeah. I mean, I've always had a dog since I was a child, and then there was like
Yeah.
a couple months we didn't, and it was just the weirdest thing ever.
you're lonely. It's
Yeah.
yeah. There's a companionship.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Lovely. I
What-
like
Any pets for you?
Well, I'm a cat person, so
okay.
we always had a cat. I mean, we had dogs, but they were for guarding,
Yeah.
like guard dogs, and so they were not allowed in the house. But the cat was, and so we always had a cat. And I had a cat myself until a few years ago. It passed away just from old age. It was very sad, and I just couldn't bring myself to get another one. I just couldn't go through that. So
Yeah,
plus
it's tough. But but cats have personalities
Yes, my cat was, and yeah, he was great. He lost an eye to cancer at some point, so we started calling him the pirate kitty because it was as if he didn't even notice. After the surgery, he just like kept going
too.
around.
He didn't have to wear a patch then.
No, but I think we did put some on for some photos. But yeah, so it's just hard to lose an animal. So I don't blame you to get one right away.
Yeah, that's always my thing. I bounce back right away with a new pet, and but I never forget the old ones.
Yeah.
They're always I've got my pictures and everything else, and great memories, and every dog I had is different personality. So it's you get to learn about them.
Very true.
See, I might want to get my last cat pet when I know I'll die first, and then I'll make sure my taxes and estate is all set up to take care of that cat. Right?
There you
So
go.
that's another reason why I now can set up the estate with my tax memory so that it's all correct. So the cat will.
Well, let me ask you real fast about that too. When people are doing wills and when they what do we call them? Not they're
Like
trust.
Trust.
And trust, living trust.
Yeah.
Do you consult with people about that also for their taxes and how to set that up? And I mean, is that something that if they're considering to do that, they should come and
right.
see you?
Yeah, we do individual taxes, business, corporate, estates, and trusts. Yeah, so definitely let us know if it starts to hit something where you might need legal advice. That's okay too, because we can get you in touch with the right lawyers to set that up. But on the tax side, yes, we can advise you to make it the most optimized strategy for you.
Do that? You never know what comes up in conversation, do you?
Yeah, no, those are difficult ones, but that's another reason why you want an accountant you can trust, so you can have those kind of. You're not going to talk to your spouse about it because it's difficult, right? But you can come into your accountant and have a private conversation about, I want to set up a living trust, or I want to do this, and I want to keep my children whole if I pass or if something happens, and that's exactly where we can advise.
And that's kind of what an accountant is not a member of your family, but they're also somebody who you can trust and be with and know that they're there for you. You know, it's like a good insurance agent. You know, there's certain people in your lives and certain businesses that you can count on, that you can always be there to ask a question. So I can see the advantage of having, you know, a good accountant. And you know, if you live here in Burbank, in fact, even if you don't live here in Burbank, you know, dealing with CBIS Datatax is a good thing. They're going to treat you as a person and not as you're always just another client. You know, please, you're on hold now for 10 minutes until I find you somebody. I hate that, you know. And every time I send an email or talk to, immediate response, you know. So I mean, as a client, I'm extremely happy.
Oh yeah, we're there for you 12 months out of the year, and especially for newer clients as well. We're offering, you know, tons of discounts for new folks coming in, whether that be business, individual, bookkeeping as well.
Yeah, and I say you guys deal with QuickBooks, which I kind of recommend now because it makes our life a lot easier here, and I'm sure it makes your guys' life easier too.
Oh,
so.
yeah.
Yeah, it's something that we could just say is that you definitely choose your dentist, your doctors. You don't just go to the first one, right? They have personality fit, and accountants are the same. So you don't just stay with your accountant simply because you've been with him. If you're at all disgruntled or you think there might be more, why you stay? You would never do that with your health. So why do you do it with your wealth? Yep. And right now we are offering, actually, just for anyone out there, since tax deadline's coming up, we're offering free extensions at our firm too. So you can come on in and we'll file that for you for free. So
an extension, I think, what goes through October
15th, right? So if you're not ready to file, you're getting panicked, and you want to enjoy your summer a little bit, then that's the smartest thing to do. And we'll do that for you for free. Just give us a call or come by, send us an email, and we'll arrange that for you. We can even do that over the phone.
Yeah, and picking an account is very. As you were saying that, I remember a story somebody once said to me. They said, you know, the first person you loved, you didn't marry. Very rarely, at least. Mm-hmm. You know, so, you know, you looked around a bit. Yeah. Well, the same thing, you know. I mean, you're not going just because you call one accountant does not mean that's going to be your, you know, you need to look around. You need to ask questions. Yeah. And what questions, when somebody calls, what are the questions that they should ask you that would set them at ease?
Well, I think that you want to ask any accountant, like, what types of clients have you dealt with? How difficult or how simple are they? Have you set up new business type things? Can you handle Schedule Cs? Like the things that when they tell us their lifestyle, they should ask the accountant, have you had clients like this before? Because experience is valuable in this business. I mean, nothing against a brand new CPA, and we need more CPAs, by the way. We need more young people to think about this industry because we're losing a lot. Many CPAs are retiring and we're losing them. But you do want to ask for some experience, so they should have 5 to 10 or more years of experience doing this. You might want to ask them, have you ever dealt with letters from the IRS? Have you helped clients through that? Because that's also an indication, do they just do it and let you go? Or do they stick around and say, oh, yeah, we follow up all the time? That you want to hear an accountant say that. And the last bit, it's really going to be about personality. Like you're going to be giving them these are information that some couples come in, their husbands sit in the car while the wife comes in. They don't even know.
You have to feel that level of trust.
So, because sometimes it's even husband and wives, they don't share the data with each other, filing separately, and they don't even want the other to know. And that's where the accountant, also the personality, you have to trust them and feel comfortable.
I agree. Well, Layla, Kashani?
Kashani.
It's
okay.
I'm working on that.
That was perfect.
You did really well.
I'm working. Okay, and Justin Cohen.
Yep.
Okay, from CBIS Datatax. And if anybody would like to reach out to them, okay, and talk to them about their specials and what they got going and all that, we're going to put links to them in the bottom of our description here. So if you're watching on YouTube, go to the bottom. And if you're listening on one of the podcast platforms, we put a description out too. I'm not sure how you get that, but if anything, go get on your computer at home and just type in the CBIS Datatax into your browser, and they have a nice little web page that comes up. And I think the first thing that comes up is their current special they have to entice you in. So, but once again, I recommend them. My Burbank uses them. I just think it's somebody, and that's why I brought them in. I thought it's an important thing that nobody likes to talk about, but it's something that we should all be involved with. It's like healthcare and all those other things. You really don't want to talk about it, but it's a necessity to have it.
Agree.
So, Okay. Well, I thank you very much for both coming in today.
Yeah, thank you.
I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Once again, Craig Sherwood from My Burbank Talks with our Burbank Business Spotlight. And we will be glad to talk to you again next time. Thanks a lot for listening.